Clash of Clans Podcast, OG, episode 26. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. I am one of your hosts, Scotty827, joined by your other host.
You picked the right preposition
Tip
this week.
Dog. I know. I had to listen back to that. And Tip Dog 20. How's it going?
Were you impressed with my preposition knowledge last week? I mean, that's pretty impressive,
I
right?
was. Your ability to speak French, too.
What can
That's
I
pretty
say?
wild.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a preposition master.
And today we are joined by the man, the myth, the BDLegend.
Yes.
Hi, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
How's it going?
That's good. That's good.
It's really great to meet you.
You as well.
Especially after listening to your interview with Tip on the Clash Tips podcast. I think that was it was really cool to kind of hear about like this whole, I don't know, it was kind of like a different side of Clash to me.
Mm-hmm.
Just a different layer I hadn't really thought much about.
Right.
Yeah, it gets really deep, and BD has some great perspectives, which is why I love talking to him, especially in podcast format, because, you know, with a YouTube video, oftentimes you only see snippets of somebody, and oftentimes those snippets are the best side of ourselves. And I'm not saying that BD has a bad side at all, but we're able to really pick his brain and get his perspective on stuff. And he's such a smart dude. Like, he just has such insight to the game. And don't shake your head right now, BD, because you know that you're a super smart guy. And I just love the perspective and getting it from it. I don't know about you, Scotty.
Yeah. Well, do you want to give a full introduction here? Kind of for anybody out there listening who probably most people in the Clash world have heard of you.
Yeah.
Anybody who's been a part of the Clash podcast scene for the past 3 years or so knows of BDLegend, of course, completely separate from his YouTube persona. But BD actually joined the Clash Tips server probably about 3 years ago. And I remember when you joined because I had T on as one of my co-hosts, and he presented strategic rushing. And if I remember right, that was the first time that you had heard of strategic rushing, and it's just a genius concept. And T's done a lot of work on the strategic rushing Bible, and so you had thoughts on that. So you joined the server and you asked lots of great questions, and then you kind of took that concept, and I would say maybe 2 years ago, if my timeline is right, you started your YouTube channel, which you didn't start it, but you started doing strategic rushing videos on YouTube, gained a small following of, you know, dedicated hardcore strategic rushers. And we know that that community is very hardcore and very dedicated, which I love because I love the math and the strategicness of it, right? All of that. So you started to gain your following there. And then when hero equipment was introduced back in December of last year, 2023, you were one of the first YouTubers to break everything down in a really detailed and mathematically oriented way. There were lots of YouTubers that were like, oh, look, yay, it's the giant gauntlet. You can smash stuff with it. Here's video of me smashing with my giant gauntlet. Smash, smash, smash. But then BD came along and he gave this detailed breakdown of each of the pieces of equipment. And of course, that's what people were looking for. That's what I was looking for. Of course, we all know that the giant gauntlet can smash, but why does it smash? At what levels does it make sense to upgrade to? And so BD just came in and really just exploded his following on YouTube because of his focus on hero equipment. Since then, I know you've put out a lot of other videos. You've kind of continued down the strategic rushing path. You've also put out lots of videos on hero equipment, but you've kind of turned your focus on raid medals and the best way to spend those, and gems, and the Builder's Apprentice, for example, recently, and the mathematical perspective on that. And I think that's one reason why you've gained such a large YouTube following, is because people love your breakdowns. They love the way that you think. Did I do a decent job kind of describing your YouTube channel and your journey from then to now?
Yeah, that was actually really good. I need to actually, that's kind of uncomfortable because that was really accurate, right? So tip, man, on your own time, don't study me. No, but I'm joking.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
I'm a super fan. What can I say? Super fan.
Yeah.
So I know that you took a break for a little while. And
Mhm.
this is another thing that I just absolutely love about you is because while you're creating these amazing YouTube videos, you're also attending med school. You're
Yeah,
attending med school to become a doctor. So, like the top 1%, right? And you have to study for boards and you have to do all the work that's associated with med school. At the same time, you're putting out these YouTube videos. So, I know you took a break from YouTube
mhm,
for about 2 months. And then
yeah,
you have recently come back and with a vengeance, just breaking down the rocket spear, breaking down the builder's apprentice, an
Oh, yeah.
updated guide on raid medals, uh, maybe it's an updated guide on hero equipment synergy. Like I'm trying to remember all the videos that I've watched over
yeah,
the
yeah.
past week or two. But what
Mhm.
happened during those 2 months? And of course, we know that you were busy, but from your perspective, like, did you need the break, or did you just didn't have time to do YouTube?
Yeah, I didn't like have the time. It basically became I was trying to do YouTube and study for STEP at the same time, like which is the first board exam. And it got to the point, and also like during March or April, I think it was Ramadan. So I was like fasting too, right? So like
Mhm.
when you're fasting and then like you're
Oh,
trying to
man.
study later in the day, it's like I don't want to study, and that's what
Yeah.
happened like every day for like a month, and that was part of my like dedicated time. They give you dedicated months to study, and that was part of my dedicated time, and it was just really hard to study during that time. So then it got to the point where it's like, oh, if I don't study, I'm gonna fail, right? And then it was just like
Mhm.
full like panic mode, like, all right, I can't do this
Oh.
right now, right? And it was bad. Like it was actually very stressful. I would wake up every day and it was like, all right, I'm just gonna, like, do I need to eat right now? No, okay, we'll go study, right? Like, so I think at the end of the day, it became like close to like 350 to 400 hours of like study time, and then after that, I did come back like June 13th. I could make YouTube videos, but I needed like a week or two just
Yep.
to like
Yeah.
just disconnect a little bit, and then after that, I slowly started coming back. So yeah,
Do you think that break, like, kinda stepping away from something for a little bit, did you come back to it with a little bit maybe a newer angle or anything that, like, kind of developed out of a little break?
I think the newer angle possibly. Um, I think really what helped was that during before break even, or before I took that break, I just wasn't like making as many videos, and I like because I had to pass the exam, I had to learn how to work
Yeah.
hard again, right? So when I
Yeah.
came back and started working on videos, I was like, this is not a lot right now, right? Because I did this, I
Mhm.
literally
Yeah.
studied the whole day before, right? So and obviously this is a lot more fun. So
Kinda
I
puts it
think
in focus.
yeah.
Did you
That's
play
awesome.
Clash during that 2-month hiatus? I mean, I wouldn't think so since you're so busy,
No.
studying, but so since you didn't really play Clash over that time period, you come back. What do you come back to whenever you finally do open up Clash of Clans in the game again, and what do you see that's
Is
good to
it
make YouTube
better
videos on?
is it better than when you left it?
A good question.
Yeah, I think it was better than when I left it. I think the spiky ball was introduced while I was gone. As well as
Oh,
there were a few events like the streak event. I never really got into that. I don't
Mhm.
really know still what's going on. I kind of want to do some math around the streak event. But a few
wow.
events, like the Holland event, I completely missed that. I knew what was going on, so I would read like some of the patch notes when they would come out, but I could barely like even now I can barely play the game. Like it just takes a lot of time, and then you don't want to. They always say that have a different game or have something else that you're playing because you're not gonna enjoy this game, and I think that's true, right? Um, so so yeah, I mean, it came back to like a little bit, but to be honest, it didn't take me long to catch up. Really what happened, I mean, there was like maybe two new pieces of equipment, the apprentice builder, the streak event, which I have yet to cover, and there was no event this month, right? So this was the month I was fully back. There was no like a special event this month, so I didn't feel very overwhelmed in terms of like the things that I needed to cover. I just had to get a few videos out the way, and Spiky ball, I haven't really talked about it, but I'm not sure if I will at this point. I think everybody's just like, yeah, that thing is good, you know.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, so you put out your equipment synergy video, and honestly, I couldn't agree with it more. Like the spiky ball and the giant gauntlet, especially as a combination, is literally just the most powerful combination. It's kind of sad that as epic equipment goes, the spiky ball and the giant gauntlet are the only ones that really outshine the common pieces of equipment.
Hmm.
So, for instance, with the queen, we have other combinations that are just as good, if not better, in the healer puppet and either the invis or the giant arrow. So I've been using the giant arrow healer puppet a lot in Legend League, for example, just to
Hmm.
do massive damage with the giant arrow and then do a mini queen walk with the healer puppet.
Did
It,
you up your arrow?
it's max now. Yeah, my giant arrow's max. I've
Jesus.
actually considered putting out a
It's a lot of
video on the
damage.
attack that I've been doing. It's Hydra Recall. I put out a short about it about a week and a half ago,
Ooh.
but it's quite amazing. So basically the concept is you find a streak or you find a line that you can shoot that giant arrow, preferably going after air defenses and sweepers, because sweepers can completely demolish your dragon attack. You shoot that line, and then at the same time, you're looking to be able to get down like a hero. So you can knock, and in the best cases, and this happens every now and again on a base, in the best cases, you can knock down 2 air defenses, 1 or 2 air sweepers, and you can get a queen or an RC down at the same time. And then you use a recall spell, pull her out. At that point, you're already set up for success. Like there's not much left that can really. Obviously, you have your core defenses like your Inferno Towers and your scatter shots, blah blah blah.
Hmm.
But the air defenses and heroes, like those, can really just dramatically do so much damage to your queen, and that's one reason why that attack is so powerful. It's working pretty well, right around 6,000 trophies in Legend League right now. So not
I don't.
Six
obviously not the best in
six
Clash of
K is
Clans,
nasty.
but it's working pretty well, and I'm excited about it. So maybe I'll put out a video about that. We'll
I
have to
don't
see.
trust myself with precision.
Yeah, and it
You're
is tough. I miss a lot of the time because trying to shoot something from one
that's
side of the
me.
base all the way to the other and hit both of them, like it's minuscule, like it's
Yeah,
minuscule
it's a very
differences.
small difference. Yeah.
So we
Yeah, I
have
can
the
do it.
queen, and then of course we have the warden, which I 100% agree. The eternal tome and the healing tome, and then I use the fireball whenever I'm using super witches, and then of course right now the RC, the most powerful piece of equipment, which I got wrong as well, is the haste vial and the hog puppet. I
Yeah.
always thought that the haste vial would cause the RC to run out ahead of the hogs, and that would be a bad thing. But now we're finding out that that's actually a really good thing because defenses will target her, and then she goes
Yeah.
invisible with the fox, the spirit fox, right? And
Yeah.
then the hogs just come in and demolish everything. So it's crazy. So, what are your thoughts on that? Do you have any additional perspective since you put out that video?
Um, Not really. I mean, to I think to mention also like the reason I put out the video the way I did is because one thing that when you take a break like this is I think you have to take a back seat. So I know I couldn't be speaking anecdotally anymore. You know what I mean? Like I'm not attacking at the highest level. I'm actually really bad right now at the game, to be honest. But I'm not attacking at a very good level. I haven't been around, right? I barely watched pros. So I basically to make that video, I just went and saw what the pros used in the June monthly finals, and I just went through. I'm like, all right, what are they using? Does this make sense, right? And then kind of going from there, right? And then putting that together with my anecdotes. Ever since that video came out, I don't really have. I mean, some things are just very polarizing, right? Like the RC combination, nothing else was used. Like that was the only combo.
Yeah.
The Warden, practically the same thing, right? The Queen had some variability, and maybe the King too, right? But ever since that video came out, I don't really have like any differences. And I don't think like the equipment, the only thing that could change right now is if people figure out something with the rocket spear, but uh,
Ooh.
I don't know what could happen with that,
I love the
So
rocket spear. I'm
yeah.
Yeah.
loving it.
I don't know. Like I don't know that I'm sold on it. Like I can
Here's where it works good for me.
yeah,
And
and if it
because
works
like
for you, that's awesome.
I was looking at your video too, and And so you kind of comparing the equipment. Where I'm finding the value in the rocket spear is, first of all, I don't want my um RC up in the business.
Mhm.
Like when I'm getting into the thick of it, just for I don't know with my attacks, like I like it that she stops, the hogs go out, then she's able to kind of recover, build some up, and then I've got a little bit of wiggle room
Mhm.
at that. But a lot of times, you can activate the ability right at the start, or
Yeah.
whenever you want it, and then okay, I need her to get there as fast as she can, hit it, boom. There's also times where she'll split, like the hogs will go this way, she
Mhm.
hits it, and then so you can kinda do this, like, wedge thing and, like,
Yeah.
drive her a little bit more from the back. I don't know,
Yeah.
but that's
Mm,
No, I'm with you. I think the issue with the rocket spear has nothing to do with the rocket spear. It's just that everything is a little too powerful right now.
yeah.
I think the rocket spear would be insane if used with, like, say if the seeking shield. Seeking shield takes out like 4 defenses. If you're not targeting big defenses, then rocket spear can finish off a few more. So I'm thinking like old school attacks. Like if you're thinking back to like the Town Hall 12, Town Hall 13 days, where like pathing was like gold, right? Like if you could
yeah.
path, you could do anything, right? Like pathing could be insane with this set of equipment, right? Because you could just
Ooh.
completely just take everything out, right? Have something else come in like a Yeti or whatever or baby dragon, just clear up the rest of the buildings there, and then everything just paths around it, right? The issue is like you don't even need that now, right? Like
Mhm.
a lot of smash attacks will just push through the base. Um, so I think it can be used tactfully, but like right now the state that it's in, it just seems like, I mean, the other day I was watching the pro finals and I was like, wait, what is this extra stat? It was like time, like average time it takes to triple the base.
Oh.
I was like, how can we use this as a stat right now? Like that's crazy, you know?
Yeah, and the hard part
Um,
about the rocket spear is I've seen and heard of it being really useful with hero dives. So using the rocket spear combined with the seeking shield to take out a certain section of defenses and then funneling your king and your queen in, maybe with the warden, maybe using a log launcher and literally taking out 40% of the base to 50% of
yeah,
the base, and then cleaning up with Lalo. The problem with that is right now spam attacks are just so powerful in the game, and I'm curious if you think that that's good for the game overall, because obviously Supercell right now is catering to the casual player, and we've had
mhm,
many discussions on this podcast about casual catering to the casual player versus catering to the esports scene, whether or not that's worth it. And so an attack that uses the rocket spear like that combined with the seeking shield, like, it's not worth taking that risk that you're not gonna get everything down that you need to with your heroes when you can literally dump root riders or dump dragons in a section of the base and then get the entire base down in a minute and 6 seconds
yeah,
using that spam strategy. So what are your thoughts
Right.
about whether or not the spam meta, which even pros are using right now, what are your thoughts on whether or not that's good for the game, whether or not it's bad for the game long term? Does it prioritize current profits over future sustainability? Like, do you have any thoughts on
mhm,
that?
And it kinda speaks to what you're saying about, like, the time thing, right?
yeah,
Like, the spam and, like, the time.
right. Because those spam attacks are fast, right? Why would you
Yeah.
hybrid? Like, it doesn't make
Exactly.
sense, right?
It takes time to
Like,
set up. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
but so my thoughts on that is that I'm thinking currently that we're done with 16. Like, if they're gonna get this 1 year time, like this time horizon on town halls, they're like, what are you gonna do with 16 now? Like, that's it. And
Right.
I think that's acceptable, right? But when 17 comes out, there better be something to like really make players scared, you know? Which we might be looking at Town Hall 15 again. Town Hall 15 was hard, you know. We might be looking at that type of situation again, and I would rather have that. I would rather have it be hard and then maybe you add a piece of equipment where players are like, "Oh, maybe I can use this way or
Yeah.
this that way," right? I think it's okay. Like I think 15 was really hard and everybody was kind of enjoying it for a little bit, like, oh, being good, you know? But yeah, at the moment, I think a lot of people are bored, you know? I get like I always have these polls on my channel where I'm like, "Hey, what video should I make next?" I always get a
Mhm.
comment like, "Oh, how do you not burn out in the game? How do you not," um, I think people are a little bored right now. Once you get up there, like, what do you do, right? So there's a bunch of things that they could do to address that, right? One thing is to address the balance of the game, or I mean, the thing with Supercell is it's hard to know what they're thinking because they're always thinking, and I think that's a good thing. Like right now, they
Mhm.
could be thinking of a completely novel idea. I would love to see like some type of Legend League rework where like things get harder as you go up. Like, what if what if hard
Oh.
mode enables when you get to 5500, or
Mhm.
something like that, right?
Ooh,
Then it's like,
that's a great
oh,
idea.
right? Like now you have to actually think about it. And like the guys who are attacking at 6,000, like Tip, right? They're a
I'm
different
not quite
breed,
there. So
you
I'm
know?
below 6,000. I'm almost to 6,000, but not
And
quite.
then
That's
you could get
impressive.
harder mode, and then you get harder mode at
Yeah,
so it's like
exactly.
the top of the top.
To separate
Yeah.
the wheat from the chaff, like to make the cream rise to the top, which 100% makes sense. And
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'd like that.
the one thing that I think Supercell is doing wrong in this instance is they're not giving the casual player enough credit because the problem, and this is part of the issue, is that the pro scene picked up on how to use root riders very quickly, right? They picked up on how to use dragons very quickly, and they were very quick to complain early on. So I've been in clans that have been in champs 2 for the last 7 months or so, and I would say 7 or 8 months ago, whenever root riders were first introduced, 7 or 8 3 stars was the regular per war
Yeah.
in Champs 2. The most recent Champs 2 war that I did, it was common for clans to have 12 or 13 3 stars
It's
every
crazy.
single war, like
That's
every
crazy.
single war. And those attacks that didn't 3 star were typically high 80s, low 90s.
Mhm.
So, and I would consider Champs 2 like kind of the casual player who maybe plays a lot more than the regular player, but I would think that Supercell would give the casual player a little more, I won't say respect, but understanding that it's going to take a little bit longer time for the casual player to learn how to do these attacks really well. But at this point in
Mhm.
the game, the casual player has learned how to do these attacks, and 3 stars are just everywhere. And is that a good thing for the game overall? And I don't know. I would
Yeah.
like to see Town Hall 17 be harder, of course, but also Supercell has said that Town Hall 15 was not good for the game because it was so hard, because
Yeah.
even the pros struggled with it. So, do you
Mhm.
think that they're gonna try to strike some type of balance between the super easy Town Hall 16 meta and the super hard Town Hall 15 meta?
Yeah, I think well, one thing is that like I also don't think Champs 2 is casual, I'll be honest with you. I think casual players are very like with all due respect, they're not that good. They'll get a triple here and there, but they just play, you know what I mean? So they're not
Right.
watching videos like a lot of people aren't, you know what I mean? Um, I'm sure like we don't know the number of players that are actually active per month, right? That would be a cool stat.
Yeah.
But like I just use Judo for as an example because he gets the most views, right? Like Judo will get like a million views a video, right? But
Mhm.
like 80% are not subscribed. We've talked about this before, right? So like 80% of those people are just like watching. They're not subbed. They're not invested into this, right?
Ah.
So there's a lot of players. There's a lot of players, right? And they're, so it's hard to know, right? And they have the numbers on the back end, which is probably why they're struggling, right? Like
Right.
they can see all of that, right? And we can't see it. So for them, it's about striking a balance. And that's why I think like if you tier these hard modes, that would make it a little easier because the pros are just too good, right? Like they're just unbelievable, right? With what they're doing. Um, but you just have to make it where it gets harder and harder, right? Uh the issue I think is that Clash of Clans is not a player versus player game. Why does
Ooh.
Clash Royale never have this issue? Right? They have other issues. We're not gonna
Right,
talk about
yeah.
that,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
they never have this issue where like, oh, these guys are too good because they're playing other guys. So if you're too
Yeah.
good, like
That's
you either
true.
adapt or you're gone. All other games have this feature, but in Clash of Clans, we're playing bases, right? So there's only
Ooh,
so
good
much you
point.
can do.
So
So
what is
go
like
ahead.
the war what does like the war map look like to you? Like if the game is in a good spot, like balanced or whatnot,
Mhm.
what is it? So, you logged in and you kind of saw like it's, based on time, right? Like the worlds and
Right.
what does it look like to you? Like, I mean, I remember the old days we were talking about this just a couple weeks ago where it was like when Town Hall 11 and 10 was there, it was like 11s were so freaking hard right
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
And the war maps were like 1 and 2 stars on the 11s
Mhm.
in some of our matches.
Yeah. Um, I think I think the if your clan is running this perfectly, like the top 5 bases should be struggling. Everything else should be hit like dipped, right? And hit. Um, but I think like that's the ideal way to do it. But at this point, I mean, I had a 14 tripling 16s
Mhm.
like in our
Really?
clan. Like, yeah, he got like 4 in last CWL, and I was like, this is,
Holy sh
yeah, he's like this is not, but I think it's hard. Like it's very hard like for them because they have those numbers. They probably know the amount of casual players, and also like it's better to stream people into the game, I think,
Yeah,
because the people who are here, we're gonna be here. Like next year, we'll
yeah,
be here, right?
Right.
yeah,
Unless they do something ridiculous, right? We'll be here next year. So I think it's good for them to like stream people into the game too. Um, it's hard. It's hard because it's not a player versus player mechanic. So like
yeah, that's a really
balance
good
is
point.
also
I hadn't
issue.
thought about it that way.
So I have 2 questions. So, first, I'm curious how you would fix that. So, is there any way, and I don't know that there's a way to do the PvP format, because I would love to see Clash of Clans as an RTS, similar to like Warcraft 2 or StarCraft back in the day where you're building up, but that's a fundamentally different game than Clash of Clans. So,
Very.
question number 1 is like, how do you think, is there any ideas that you have on how Clash of Clans could change it to where it's not player versus base and it's player versus player in some way? And then number 2, before I forget, have you ever checked out activeplayer.io, because they do have active stats
Oh no
on
way.
how many players are playing Clash of Clans on a monthly basis. So, for example, in the last 30 days, and so these are back end numbers.
Hmm.
So this is not
Just like
the
how I like it.
inter.
Sorry.
So this is not uh, the internal numbers by Supercell, but I'm assuming that these are the numbers where somehow Google Play and Apple are seeing how many players are opening up the Clash of Clans
Hmm.
app. So
Hmm.
so they don't necessarily, and they can see the numbers on how long a player stays in that app as well, but they may not
Hmm.
necessarily know what the player's doing in the app on the Clash of Clans side. But for example, in the last 30 days, 60,361,000 players logged in. So that's the last 30 days. The
60
uh,
mil.
peak players in one day was 16.2 million peak players in one day.
You mean 16 million people in one day played the game
Yes, at one time. So
at one time?
so 60 million players have logged in over the last 30 days, but 16.2 million is the most players that have logged in on one day. So, I mean, if you do the math on that, that's what 44 million players don't play daily, basically. 44, at least 44 million players logged in at least one time over the past 30 days for a total of 66 million. Now, if you look at the active player chart, they peaked uh, recently. They peaked in July of 2023, and they've kind of slowly been going downhill. So in July of 2023, there were 81 million average monthly players, and their peak players in a day was 17.2 million. So there are numbers, although they're not necessarily from Supercell. So I guess that comes back to the question of how would Supercell change the game in order to make it a player versus player experience, because I do think that that would reinvigorate the game. And Scotty and I have talked about that a little bit, how you hold town hall versus town hall competitions, but then again, that's
Yeah.
not player versus player. So I don't know. Do you have any ideas or thoughts on everything that I just presented?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, the first thing is that like, all right, so 60 mil, right? Like in the month. Um, what's the biggest Clash Discord you can think about?
Like, I'm assuming the Clash of Clans Discord.
Um,
right?
outside of that, because you could be very casual there, but like in terms of like wars, in terms of clans, in terms of clan families,
Would probably be like the Judah Sloth or Kenny Joe
right? And
Discord
how many
server, right?
and they don't have millions of members.
No, Kenny Joe just showed his Discord. I think it was 36. It may have been like 50,000, but it was only in
Yeah,
the 30 to 50,000 range, right?
yeah. So a lot of these players are just very casually
And
playing,
that's true. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's a
that's
good
one
point.
thing. And the second thing is, okay, so my thing is you have players in the same area already, right? So like just have them like play a role in the defense, right? I think I spoke to you before about this, but like defense retargeting,
Oh,
right? Like
that's
if
cool.
yeah, like just like if you have an inferno tower that went to I don't know, like a skeleton, like nope, I want that on the queen, that forces a
That's
spell,
cool.
right? Um things like that, right? The issue is it's hard to do that in practice though. But uh
Interesting.
if they figured out a way to like say you can have like an alternate war mode, right? Where like players have like an hour. So like your clan, everybody gets on at this hour. You guys figure out whatever time works for you. And in that hour you defend your base, and you attack as well. They could figure out something like that where it could be like a different type of war. It could be really lucrative. Maybe it gives you like more ores or something, right? If you like log on and do your attacks and your defenses. Because if you don't um incentivize like people actually being there for their defense, they're not going to be there, right?
Right?
um
Or
but like when you have pros facing each other and they're already there, I mean you could
yeah.
do something, right?
So
You could add that in right there. Like if you log in to your village and you're under attack, you're no longer a spectator.
Yeah,
That would even be like for Supercell as like a business, it would be make more sense to not tell you like this hour, but during war day, if you're under attack, you can go in there, so you're in the game kind of watching and stuff.
yeah. Yeah,
mm,
imagine the people that would just turn on their notifications. I haven't had notifications on since I began playing Clash of Clans,
Yeah,
right?
that's a
Because
right?
it's
great
so
idea.
annoying when it's like, Hitler is attacking you or something, right?
Right?
Like
Yeah, yeah,
right?
right.
So
Oh, Hitler, I'm going in and I'm going to defend.
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Like that would be really cool.
So one
Mhm.
answer to that is if you could play spells on defense. So
Yeah.
if you could use the rage spell, if you could use the free spell, if you could put down haste spells for your CC troops or for your hero, or you could use heal spells. So you could pick your clan castle so that when they came out, and you could pick a clan castle that might work. So you could, for instance, do a high damage CC of like super minions, like an
Mhm.
all super minion CC, and then you could freeze the incoming troops so that those super minions will continue targeting, like, or maybe you have the queen on this side and you have the king on the other side, and you know that the king can't do damage to the super minions, so you can freeze the queen like as she's
Mhm.
walking in. Like spells that are able to be used on defense would help and solve this problem. Or if you could put down your defending heroes whenever you wanted. So I'm thinking like it wouldn't make sense necessarily other than CC troops to be able to have troops to fight up against the opponent's troops. But if you could put down your heroes anywhere on the base at any time, like that would introduce this really cool mechanic to where if I'm the attacker, I can't just spam in my troops,
Yeah.
because once my troops are spammed, well, then the defender can look at those spam troops and be like, "Oh, he has one free spell left. What's he gonna do if I put my queen down here and start
Mhm.
freezing all his dragons?" So
Yeah.
spells and heroes being able to used on defense would help that. Do you think that they would actually be willing to rework the game to do something like that, or rework a game mode? Maybe.
Yeah. It really depends on it really depends on if they can work out the code, and I
Right.
think they need to work out like just the practicality aspect of it, right? But if they can do that, like it would be very cool. That's one thing. And um the second thing is also oh, and like Supercell, I want to check if this ends up happening.
Yeah, right.
But
we've come up with so many ideas on the Clash Clans podcast.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we've never gotten a check, so that's okay.
But at least there's a record of it right here.
But like defensive equipment, right? Like if you can put equipment on your heroes that are specifically for defense,
and
you know
use
what I'm
them on
saying?
defense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Or
oh
like
man,
instead
this
of
is
passive,
genius.
active, and defensive on your.
Yeah, like maybe it gives your like say the warden, right?
Oh my gosh, I'm
Maybe
thinking
it
the exact
makes
same thing. Yes, say it.
yeah, it makes the building stronger in the area, right? And that's like the passive, and the active could be like just a constant beam, or something.
Eternal Tome. So
Oh yeah, that could work
if you
too.
can put the warden's altar beside the town hall, and as a defender, I can click the Eternal Tome when I want to click it, then that's
Yeah.
9.5 seconds. If I have a max defensive Eternal Tome, that the offense, the person who's attacking me, is not going to be able to take my town hall down. Now,
Yeah.
maybe it could be balanced to where it's a shield so that nothing can get in.
I've never seen Tip this excited before.
Also, well, we've also never done video, but also like maybe nothing can get out at the
Yeah.
same time. So I don't know, but like defensive equipment, and I do think that making it interactive will help solve this problem, because it's not just how good your base builder is, and your base builder could be someone who's building bases in Germany that I have no idea who they are. I just bought this base from them. I'm having no interaction with the defensive side of Clash of Clans. Literally, the game has gotten to the point to where the only thing that's important on my side is my offensive capability. I mean, sure, I upgrade the defensive side, blah, 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 you sneaky goblins, to raid for gold and dark elixir, and I build it up. But as far as base building, like literally at this point, I do nothing on the defensive side. So incorporating some way for me as a player to have an effect on the defensive side, like 100% makes sense. Like that's absolutely genius. And I can't see why they wouldn't try to incorporate something in the game like that. Like I just, man, that's genius. I don't know. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it's like
speechless.
Well,
Okay.
I think it's like the reason like esports is boring. Like I'm gonna be honest, I don't watch esports. I have
don't
better
either.
things to do.
Yeah,
Like
I don't either.
it's just like the same guys using the same attacks. But look, defensively, if I'm like, yo, this man is a genius. I want to see what he's cooking, in his head when he's on defense, right?
Right.
Then I'm
what
gonna see
spells you choose to bring on defense, what heroes, what
right,
hero equipment you choose to bring on defense.
exactly,
Like,
right. It
oh my
becomes a
gosh.
very complex game, and that's what makes it interesting. Like with Clash Royale, like I don't play
Your
Clash
army
Royale
camps
anymore.
come up.
But Clash Royale, watching the pros play Clash Royale was so entertaining. It's just constantly plays and counter plays, right? Like
Yes.
and that's what's interesting to watch, right?
Maybe you can choose
My brain is like going down
when to
as
pop a
well,
Tesla,
right?
or you can
Right.
choose when to ignite a giant bomb. So maybe the king goes through the giant bomb, and I choose not to ignite
Tornado
it yet.
trap.
I choose when to ignite the tornado trap. Like
Yeah.
the defensive side, oh, that's absolutely and that also brings it much closer to an RTS, which I love RTSs. I haven't
Same.
played an RTS game in years, but some of the best memories that I have are going to my buddy. BD, you may be too young to remember this. Scotty, you definitely remember this, but back in the day, our internet connection was so slow that there was no way to effectively play Warcraft 2. Yes. So we would all meet at my buddy's dad's business, where he had this super fast DSL internet connection.
Kind of fast now. It's like,
I mean, now it's ridiculous, and we would go there, and he would have 5 or 6 computers in different offices, and we would each pick an office, load up Warcraft 2, and play against each other. And it was all of that, like, and it was all choice. Like, what am I going to upgrade first? Am I going to go the magic route and upgrade my mages in order to look at the long game versus building up my defenses currently to withstand an early attack. Like RTS was my jam, and I have so many good memories associated with that. But making defensive capabilities interactive would definitely bring it into the world of RTS. And I think that you would see a massive resurgence of interest in a Clash of Clans because then it really becomes a skill based game. I mean, it's still a building game on the side, right? I mean, you're
Right.
still spending gems to upgrade your archer task. So the money's still there for that side. You're still upgrading your equipment, but from an interest standpoint and from an excitement standpoint, like I can now attack against the person who's attacking me. Like that's just
Mhm.
that's mind blowing. Like that's amazing. Wow. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I think like I don't know if you guys have played Squad Busters at all. I put
Little
a
I
bit.
disgusting amount of time so far into Squad Busters, more than I
yeah.
Have
ever
you?
thought I would. Yeah, more than
Really?
I ever thought I would. Yeah, and I think that's why. You know what I mean? Like it's just playing against other people is because then the possibilities are endless, right?
Yeah.
Now even watching like Clash of Clans esports, I feel bad for the casters. What do they talk about? Like what like like I feel for them. I really do. Like, oh, this attack is great. Oh, the air
Let's
sweeper
time
goes
it.
down, and it's like, man, these guys are probably bored too, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? So I think anything to make it that sort of game. I mean, I love the identity of Clash of Clans. I love like what they've
Yeah.
done with it so far, but eventually like player versus like buildings is gonna get kind of boring because the buildings can't fight back.
Do you think
I love that
do
idea.
you think that they think it's even worth it? I mean, Clash of Clans, like we're gonna have Clashversary here, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on what you think
Mhm.
Clashversary is gonna be. I'm pretty sure that they're gonna be
Oh yeah.
introducing new equipment, hero equipment, new
Booster.
the 12% boost, which is massive.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
excited
That's
about
yeah.
awesome for
that.
me. I'm
Mhm.
excited.
So it's gonna be 12% faster. 12 is 12 or 13? 12, right?
12, I think.
12,
Yeah.
12.
Is this the 12th year that they've been in business? Do you think
Yeah.
that they're looking at that and they're like, we've been doing this for 12 years. Like, let's just and from a business standpoint, I don't fault them for this at all. So I'm not being negative about
Mhm.
Supercell in any way by saying this, but are they looking at the game and say this game has run its course? Like at this point,
Um,
all we can do as a business is make as much money off the player. And again, I don't think that's a bad thing. And I think that they're
mhm,
they're inventing ingenious ways of allowing people to pay for stuff if they want. And
mhm.
I like that. But do you think that they've said this game's old? There's no reason to rework it. We're going to focus on other games rather than invest a lot of time in coding and money and effort into basically recreating the game that we all know and love in a new way. Like, do you think that they'll even think that it's worth it to do something like this?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Because, I think what holds them back is the game code, like, to be
Mm,
to be real. I think that's what's holding them back. But for sure, I mean, think about the amount of like, they just doubled their team or whatever, like, a few months
right?
ago, right? And
Oh yeah. So
the amount of like things they're coming out with now, this is not the sign of a game that's died, right?
That's true. Yeah, that's a
Um,
good point.
yeah. Good
every
point.
year, every year a Call of Duty comes out, and every year there's a cycle for that Call of Duty. So by the time it comes around this time of the year, right? They're getting ready for their November, October release, which is Black Ops 6 this year. And then the game is done. Like then this question comes up, oh, are they done with this game or not? Right? Because
Yeah.
the devs, right? They're going to be moving on to the next game and support for the next game, right? I have felt that many times. Like I know
In
what it's
games you've
like to
played, you mean?
yeah, yeah, and it's just like, okay, I know they're done here. They're not fixing this bug or they're not fixing this, right? That is not the case, right?
Yeah.
I
Good
think I
point.
think it would be foolish for them to do that with 60 million player. If you can't make money with 60 million players on a month, there's a problem, right? But
Yeah.
I think the issue that's holding them back is probably the game code. They've said it multiple times. This was coded on something a long time ago. Like Squad
Right.
Busters is like really smooth, it's really nice. It's probably on like newer codes that are more adjustable, right? so they can make those changes, and I don't blame them for that. I get that, you
Yeah.
know. And it's probably a lot of work. It's probably not worth it for them to rework the code, you know, because then
Mm.
they'll have to fix
Yeah.
the bugs and stuff. It's basically a new game. But they're gonna have to try to find ways to like work around it, right? Which is why I think like a new game mode is probably better for this type of thing because you know Clan Capital is on a new game mode, right? Things like that, right? It's on a new set of code. So
And we live in like AI times now, you know,
right.
where some of those big problems that were like huge, huge developmental tasks are now where it's like, well, now we have AI to help. So, and I keep
Mhm.
wondering too, like on some of that news about Supercell and about like active players, you know, sometimes I think like we would get that one picture too, but you know, there's also been bots being banned. There's been,
Right.
you know, stuff that like that we, you know, don't see behind the scenes too. So it could even be that there's more people logging on this year than last year that
Mhm.
are real. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know, but
It's true. Yeah, that's a good point. If they're banning the banning the botted
or there's
accounts,
just more new
yeah,
ones,
Yeah.
but
Uh,
still seems to be pretty active. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I was just saying like I think also it's also hard I think to they probably have so many things planned right now,
right.
and something like this it just would take a lot of time and resources, and it might not pan out, you know.
Yeah.
So they might be thinking like, all right, let's see what else we can do. I'm sure they have something cooking though. I kind of feel it, you know how sometimes you can just feel like something is
Yeah,
coming. I get that feeling right now. It's been a few months. We're getting into
it
the
has been quiet,
situation, yeah, where like equipment is basically like what super troops used to be. Like every
right?
month we get a new super troop, and ooh,
That's a
you
good
know,
point.
Oh yeah.
but like so it's getting to that point. So something is cooking, you know. I'm excited to see. I hope they do something with builder base. I know Asher is probably bored, but yeah.
So I
Well, I,
know. Go ahead, Scotty.
well, I remember too. Like I was thinking about this after one of our last podcasts. I remember, and I guess with some of the criticism around like the release of hero equipment, and I can't, and I might just be misspeaking facts here, but when the Dark Barracks came out, I think we got a couple different troops right away, or there was certain where we got a couple different troops where they introduced into the game, and it seemed like, oh my god, you know, how am I ever going to get these things leveled up? They keep introducing these things,
Mhm.
um, but it was like introducing a whole new component to the
Yeah,
game, and I think like when you say things like, hey, or like there's something cooking, I think, well, kind of like the minions and hogs. At first, it's like a whole like this hero equipment could be pieces of something that's
That's
bigger.
bigger.
mm,
I don't know.
I see.
Yes.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
know that
Good
they
point.
spend a lot of time on the clan capital, and I don't know this for a fact, but my understanding is that the clan capital is possibly based on different code than the base game in some way, which is the reason why they're able, for example, to have the bigger map.
Yeah,
And whenever the clan capital
Oh,
first came out, we all thought that it was going to be like dual attacking capabilities or multi attacking capabilities where I can go in on the clan capital at the same time that Scotty goes in on the clan capital,
that
and
would be
we're
mhm,
awesome.
literally both attacking it at the exact same time. That didn't happen. Like it didn't pan out. But if they built the clan capital separately from ground up, and they spent so much time and effort and energy in that, and clan capital's awesome, but it's also kind of boring. But
yeah,
so if they're going to spend that much time and effort with the smaller team, this is pre Supercell hiring spree on the clan capital. I can see them doing the same thing with the current dev
that's
group
true.
that they have
Yeah,
if they have a different game mode, but then also at the same time, you're really making that app bulky. Like you got
yeah,
builder base in there, you got clan capital in there, you got home village in there, and then you got the new way of attacking and defending in there as well. So I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud but I do think that it is something that they could do if they really wanted, or is there a possibility that they just create a whole new different app or new different game? But I think at that time, they're essentially saying Clash of Clans is dead. Clash of Clans 2 is the new way out. Clash of Clans is an RTS is what we're going to work on from
Right.
here on out. Similar to how COD comes out with a new edition every single year. They're kind of
Mhm.
saying, okay, we're going to leave a small staff, small group of devs to work on the old Clash of Clans. It's going to essentially turn into Heyday, with some attacking capabilities. You can still
Oh
spend money
man.
there, but then we're going to create this new app that incorporates all of these new cool features that we've been talking about here.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they could do that if you could find a way for players to import their API data into the second game, and then they just have everything they had before,
Oh, that'd be,
but
yeah, I guess that
you're
makes
just
sense.
on a new system. If they could find a way to do that, 100%. I just feel like that might be super hard to develop. Like
Yeah.
they might just be thinking, let's perfect this now. Maybe they'll work on it in the background. Maybe they have like a few devs working on it, like, hey, this is your project for the next year, you know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't envy them, but like, that's one way they could go about it. But I do like the bigger team. I feel like the issue with Clan Capital for me was was like what you said, right? It was like we put the whole dev team on this, and that's probably what they realized too. They're like, yo, we cannot have the whole dev team working for 6.5 months on one project, and that's why they hired more people, which is good. Like I think that's good management. Um, so yeah, I'm excited with that. Also, like Clan Capital, yeah, I want to see them switch up Clan Capital a little bit. Hopefully, yeah,
Also,
it's just a little bit, right? Like right now, it just seems like, all right, you get on, you get your hits. Let me get my raid medals. Call
Yep.
it a
yeah.
day.
What would you want to see it? What would it look like to make it
Yeah,
more exciting?
yeah. I don't know right now, to be honest. I think what bothers me is like the mechanic of like, hey, I beat X number of clans, this clan capital, and all right, that's it. Like why don't
Yeah.
we do something with that number? If you beat 5 or 10 or 15, maybe you guys can do something with that, like because that's really dependent on how many of your players play, right? And I like that
Yeah.
feature. Like let's incentivize like 50 player clans that have 50 players doing all 5 or 6 of their clan capital attacks. Like that's huge,
Oh yeah.
So like maybe after 5 or 10, maybe you could get rewards, but I also think that could get boring. Maybe you have like an interim level or something, or you unlock something. It's
I
hard.
honest I
Yeah,
honestly have no idea what the hell is going on with that clan capital. I mean,
yeah,
I do my attacks and stuff, but I still don't quite know how the whole thing really works. Like I see like the screen, it says, "Oh, next raid," and it's like I'm not really seeing like a progress. You
yeah.
Mm.
know what I mean? Like to be like, okay, what is that even? It
What does that
just
mean to me as a player?
yeah,
Yeah,
it's not like a CWL thing where it's like you're kind of up a maybe I am, but I'm just not seeing it, you know? Like
yeah.
but trying to and can you rewatch attacks? I was trying to find that and I couldn't.
I think you can.
You
Can
can,
you?
but I mean, that's a good point in that how often do you go into the clan capital to rewatch other players' attacks? Like,
Mhm.
I don't know many people who do. When, for example, in Clan War, like I'll go in and watch your attacks, Scotty, to see how you're doing in Clan War because I care how you do as a player. I
Oh,
don't
geez.
I don't care one little bit how you
Yeah.
perform in Clan Capital, right? And
Thank
I think
God you don't
that's
look
the
at that one.
problem.
Holy crap.
Like, I
I'm
think that's part of the
horrible.
problem is
Yeah.
Yeah.
nobody cares how they do in the Clan Capital. Now, granted, we don't want somebody taking 10 attacks on one district, like, because that's gonna mean less medals for all of us. But as long as you get, the hit down 3, 4 hits, okay,
Yeah.
who
Or
cares, you
Not
know?
or
bad.
just to see how the defenses hold up, like
Mhm.
because I thought it would be kind of fun. One idea was like everybody pick one of the bases, in the clan, and you can do that, and then you can watch the attacks on it, and like and do that. But it just everything goes so fast, and there's so much shit going down with everything
Yeah, and I could
that
care
they've.
less what we're upgrading in Clan Capital right now.
Right?
Like, All right, if it's not the barracks, you want to upgrade the wall? I guess we're upgrading the wall. You know, like why does
Yeah.
it matter?
A
Get to
large
the next
forest?
level.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Unlock the next troop.
I think one thing that I've always wanted, I've seen this in another game, and I've always wanted this mechanic in Clash of Clans is like, imagine this, right? This is what I want. Obviously, you have to like work against win trading and whatnot. But imagine skins like sceneries, not skins, but sceneries that you could have on your home base, your builder base, and your clan capital, right?
Yeah.
Only if you were top 50. Only if you were top 100,
Ooh.
right? And you check out the clan and you see they have the scenery and you're like, "Oh, bruh, these guys, like, they're no joke." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you don't get it
Achievement
once.
based.
Yeah, yeah, and you don't get it once. Maybe it's reevaluated, like, every week, and if you don't have it again, you don't have it. Like, only the top 50 have this, or only the top 5, and then, like, the number 1 clan will have, like,
Oh.
the golden scenery, whatever, like, the best scenery there is, right? Um, Honestly, small, this is a really lazy way to encourage engagement. People will
That's
be all
cool.
for it though, Like, people
Oh.
will be all for it, like.
Oh yeah, like any of those things that show status. It's like a jacket, right?
Right, right.
You get, even if you could look at somebody's village and be like, "Oh, they've hit 6,000 legend trophies. Now they've got
Right.
this," if you're this far in legends, your walls have a
Yeah,
different fire or something
Yeah.
like that. So that way
yeah,
when people are just hitting you, it's like, "Ooh, I've got something prestigious, something that like marks me as like, hey."
Well, so they
yeah.
do kind of have that already. Like they've already introduced that
I
concept in the
wouldn't know
game
because I've never been that high up.
where with the Champs One statue. So they do have a
Oh, that's
statue
true.
in the League Medal
Mm,
shop that you can only get if you're a Champs One clan. Now,
yeah.
granted, you can be in the Chance One clan, and as long as the clan is in Chance One, anybody can buy the statue. So it would have to be differentiated somehow. But like, I
Yeah, but
definitely
that's, like,
definitely
so
see the
small,
possibilities, and that
you know what
too.
I mean?
Like it's
Like,
not
The
even
golden
noticeable.
golden heroes.
yeah, what I would love to see is, like, say, like, Tip's gonna be in 6K, right? Like, in a little bit, you know? So, say, like, you go to Tip's base, right? And then, like, when the clouds open up, you have, like, an animation that just shows, like, 6K on it, And then it just, like,
Ooh,
breaks apart. Like, then anytime
6K
somebody
club.
visits your base, they're gonna know that, like, "Yo, this dude is 6K," and it's, like, kinda dope, right? I would
Yeah. Hit
even,
him.
like.
Do you
Yeah.
wanna take a shot against the 6K man?
Right, exactly, and, like, even
Yeah.
on, like, war sceneries, like, imagine you're, like, checking out your opponent's war base and, like, you have, like, a cool animation pop up. Dude, I'll pay for it, you know what I mean? Like, it
Yeah.
that's just, like, a intimidation factor. It's, like, r small things like that, right, I think, are kinda nice to have, right? So.
There's this game called Population 1 for, um, Oculus or whatever,
Yep.
and on level 50, they get is like a level 50 PJ jacket, and you'd see one of those guys before you take off. It's just like Fortnite, but in VR,
Mhm.
and you're just like, "Oh god, that's a PJ." And so people are just intimidated, or the skins that people had that, were old that weren't available, people got intimidated. So I think putting that down, it kind of turns it a little bit more into that player versus player too, because
Yeah.
instead of the base, you're kind of hitting a person
Mhm.
um in a league. I like that.
And let's be clear, like gamers have proven
Super clear.
that they will spend
Yeah.
tons of money and time to get this ridiculous little skin in game
Yeah.
to show how good they are at the game. Like games that I played over the years, it's always been that way. So even for example, I play Catan, right? I
Mhm.
I love playing Catan, and I've only picked it up again within these past 2 or 3 weeks. But when you're playing, there are different levels of play. So you have like master, you have novice. I don't remember all of them, but the top level is grandmaster. And when you get grandmaster in Catan,
Ooh.
you get a little red gem that goes beside your name. You know how hard I'm trying to make Grandmaster in Catan. Like, I'm logging on. If I could spend money in the game to get there, I would get there. I play more, like, all because I want to reach that achievement of becoming a
Yeah.
He wants the
Grandmaster in Catan,
robes. He
right?
wants the
I
robes.
want that PJ, and I think introducing something like that in Clash of Clans is genius for sure.
Yeah. I think another really easy way they could do that, again, another game, um, like titles, right? Like just if a dude is top 50, like give him a
Oh,
title, you know,
Sir
like
BD
like
Legend.
well, like yeah, or BD Legend like the fearless, or like the top 50 are the fearless, and then top
Master BD
Yeah.
Legend.
yeah, like so some you know what I mean. And every time you check this person's profile, like it just displays the title, you know,
In fire. Like,
right in
A fire
fire.
name. Yes, BD
Yeah,
Legend and Fire.
yeah,
yeah, that's a
That
right.
great
just
idea.
that reminded me of the I think it was on Friends, that episode where they're doing rock paper scissors, and then I forget his name, but he did the whole little fire thing because I just did that with my hand. I was
Oh, I haven't seen that in a long
BD
time.
Legend and Fire. So I'm curious what's next for BD Legend, because obviously you just hit 50K subscribers. Congratulations, that's awesome.
Thank you.
And I did want to say thank you, because I watch your videos, and honestly, from a Clash of Clans content perspective, like, they're great. It's great info. We've already talked about the statistics, like the deep, in-depth analysis. That's what players who watch your videos want, which is why you've done so well. But I also have learned a lot as far as like editing and title naming and thumbnails. Like, I wanted to say thank you, because you essentially have given me an education in how to do it the right way in order to attract the most attention to your YouTube channel. So my question for you is, what's next? Obviously, in real life, you have some big stuff coming up for med school.
Yeah,
So what does YouTube look like for you, and what does Clash of Clans look like for you?
right. Of course. Well, you're welcome. And so I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I think that a lot of I think there's something missing right now for Clash of Clans viewership. I think okay, first of all, I'm just gonna name a couple of people. I'm not saying anything bad about them. I'm just trying to make a point.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what has Itsu taught you about life? You know, what has like Kenny or like Judo, like what have these people taught you about life, you know? And like there's not much, right? And that's not
Mhm.
their fault. That's not their fault. But what I'm trying to
Right.
say is that like a lot of times creators for games, they can focus on how the game it plays an impact on life, or like how you know, just the game itself, right? And I think a lot of us have been focused on the game itself because that's really where it's been. I'm starting to become a little bit more curious about how can I I'm
Make a
still
difference.
formulating. Yeah, like how can I talk about like I want people to get something out of these videos, you know what I mean? And I'm starting to think that like I don't want it to just be what is the best level for your giant gauntlet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So part of me is starting to experiment with that a little bit. This next video that I'm working on is a lot different than what I've done um previously, but it still has but still having the value, still having the things that people want to be there for. It's really hard to kind of make that all work. But it's something that I'm trying to like work on. And this next video, actually, the one that I'm going to be like working on finishing up and hopefully getting to my editor today. I'm like really excited for it. I want to see how it goes. Also, there's like the other thing of like, you know, when things don't go well, sometimes on YouTube, especially if like YouTube is your own, is like your only form of income for a lot of people who go full
Yeah.
time or students like me, that is, you don't want to experiment, right? Like nobody wants to play with their job, right? Like
Right.
it's like, nah, I'm just gonna stay in my
Yeah.
lane. I'm gonna do my work. You know what I mean? Like you can do
Yep.
that, right?
Don't mess with the
So
formula.
yeah, so a lot of people will do that, and I don't blame them, like and I've done that for a long time. It's just there are certain I've noticed that the videos that I've enjoyed making the most a year later are the ones where I like really took a different step, and kind of did something a little different um
Like what,
and
for example? Like,
yeah. Yeah. So like for example, like there was this one video that I made for my strategic rushing let's play series of trying to get trying to get I think it was like was it the 5 builders in 40 days or try or in 1 month to see like how far I can get in Clash of Clans. But I think it was the 5 builders in 40 days. I felt really good about that. Because I had to get creative, I had to make stakes. In essence, like it was a challenge video, but it wasn't, right? I was just doing the let's play series, but I framed it that way. So I had to
yeah,
think about it that way. I think what was missing from that video is the fact that I I didn't extrapolate that, right, to, like, outside of the game. So I left it in the game, and I didn't extrapolate it to outside of the game. And what I mean is, like, I didn't take what I showed in the video and, like, said, "Okay, here's the lesson, here's how you can use this in your life," you know?
yeah,
Um, which is what I'm trying to do different in this next video. I'm trying to make sure that the viewers can walk away with something that is, like, that they don't just have from
yeah.
from, like, the title, the thumbnail, and like,
The
"Oh, it's
lessons.
inside the game." Yeah,
There's bigger
right?
lessons in the game, in the play, in
Right.
the whole of it.
Interaction, player
Mhm.
interaction. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think yeah, and I mean, it does make sense, like, the videos do better if you do them like this, I think, and I think people just enjoy being with you more, you know what I mean? Like, they
Yeah.
enjoy watching the videos more. But the issue that most people are like, "Yeah, that sounds great. That's wonderful." It's really hard to do. It is very hard to do. I can sit
Yeah.
here and make a talking head video like today. Like it's
Yeah,
not a big deal, you know? But to walk through this process is hard. If it was easy, everybody would do it, right? Like it's a very difficult thing to do. So trying to figure that out, right? I'm sure like when new things will come out, I'll be thinking about, all right, I just kind of need to get this one out, you know? So that is what happens all the time. But yeah, I mean, and even in terms of like just income and viewership and things like that, like one video that gets 100K views is the same as 10 videos get 10K, right?
yeah,
Um, at the end of the day, right? So, but if you just become very good at making videos that get more views and people enjoy those videos, well, now you're onto something, right?
yeah.
Right.
Um,
And
so
it becomes something bigger than just the game, right?
right.
Like, you're kinda you can be educational, life lessons, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think about, like, you could do things like how this works with how this compares to your finances, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
you could think about your finances this way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, like, probably, like, finding that metaphor just to, like, drive that video is probably, like, the tough part.
It's hard. It's like it's more like I think the metaphor is one thing, but like the story itself, right?
Yeah,
People don't care about a lot of stuff. Like it's hard to make people care about stuff if you don't do something ridiculous, right? We're talking about a game that's 12 years old, you know? People have seen most
yeah.
of everything, right? So
Well,
like
now after
the
the streak event, they've seen pretty much everything. No, I'm
Yeah.
just
but yeah, so like you really had to like be creative to try and find ways to do that. Again, I'm saying all of this with like, and I'm also gonna say this, like if I do this for like a week or two and like everybody hates it, I might just be like, all right, we're back to what we're doing, right? But I don't know. I'm starting to think about it. Also, like time is a thing too. Time and mental space, right? So when you're trying to think about things more intricately, like it just takes a lot of mental space. So yesterday I was at dinner and I was just like, yeah, so what could be good? They were having
yeah,
steak and I was thinking about what could be good steaks in a video because like it was just
yeah.
like I was just somewhere else completely, right? So and that's a hard thing to do sometimes. So we'll see. I have no idea what my schedule is these next few months. Like I know what rotations I'm doing, I just don't know what it's gonna look like yet. That's the type of thing that happens in school, they'll wait till the last moment and then they'll be like, "Hey, so you're here," you know? But yeah, so we'll see. There's a lot going on. I'm just thinking about that, right? Like I want to get really good at making videos, like not just Clash of
Yeah.
Clans videos, like videos in general, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, so I spending a little bit more time there and thinking about that, yeah.
Yeah, so I love this topic, right? Making videos or making content that helps people deal with issues that come up in their life. Like that's always been my deepest desire with doing the podcast, not necessarily with making YouTube videos, because like you said, if I have a video with a thumbnail and a title that says something like "How to have good mental health in Clash of Clans," like nobody's gonna watch it, right? But also from the other perspective, like it's so important to do things that are meaningful, like to do things where it's not just look at me upgrading this archer tower and
Mhm.
watch me put the sneaky goblin down to get more elixir, but how am I having an effect on the listener or on the viewer in a positive way? And I would love to do that. So I would encourage you to do that. And I will be, I will be there as a viewer 100% in support.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
definitely, I hope that you're able to do where your heart is leading.
yeah. Thank you, I appreciate that, and I think the trick is to, like, to figure it out, you know what I mean? In
Yeah,
terms of, like, learning, like, how is it possible to do both? I think it's possible. I think it's being done. It because it's not being done in our
Yeah.
niche as much, but it's being done, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Mr. Beast will, like, do things, right? Like, he'll build 100 wells, he'll restore blindness for, like, 100 people
right?
or whatever it is, right?
That's cool.
So so he'll find ways to do that and keep people entertained. So, you know, obviously he's a freak of nature when it comes to, like, doing what we do, right? But it's out there, you know, there's ways
Yeah.
to do it, and I think, the hard part is, like, figuring out how that works and, like, getting people to the video, right? I'm intrigued on, like, if I can do that now versus before, and I think I have a better understanding of it now, but it's only gonna get better if you, like, keep trying it, and yeah, it's a
And being
lot.
your most authentic, kind of in doing what you and following that passion. And I think if you're doing the things that you really like to do, making the art you really want to make, whatever that is, it translates and people
Yeah.
see that, instead
Yeah.
of like, because things can just get rote, you're like going through the motions to
Mhm.
do it. And so I think people really pick up on authenticity a lot.
Yeah, and I think, like, I don't know, like, I was making this last video, this one I'm talking about, actually, I had to make around, like I had to make around, like, 50 charts, maybe not exact 40 to 50 charts for the video to eventually get the numbers that I wanted and stuff, and I'm like, "Man, am I just gonna sit here and talk about these numbers, like, for the rest of my life," you know? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like, I don't know if that's what I wanna do, right? So I figured it out, I built a storyline around it, and, yeah, and I addressed something that I kinda needed to address through it, you know, and I was just like, "Okay, you know, we'll figure this out, and we'll see how it goes," right? It could be a flop,
And I
you
and I
know,
think I think you're already getting at the bigger things. Like looking at the video about the rocket sphere, for example, this week got me thinking a lot. And I think some of your ideas kind of get put in there because, I've been thinking about this hero equipment. How am I going to do this? Should I take one up? Should I take this up? And then I watched your video and you were talking about level 18, I think it was 75%,
Mhm.
of the benefits. And then you were kind of going through the other ones. And I thought, this is what I'm going to do is take all these other things up to level 18 because I'm going to probably be getting the 75% benefit out of it. But the way you were explaining it and the way that even the charts kind of appeared, I thought, there's a lot of ways that this happens in real life too, where it's like you
Mhm.
don't need to go that extra 25%,
Right.
right away. Like, what's
Mhm.
that cost benefit?
Yeah.
Um, and just, the way you explain things, I thought, like, it really, really helpful, and you've got a really unique perspective on that, I think,
Mhm.
um, because now I'm doing all my 18s, for sure.
Nice.
But, I think you're already it's not it probably wouldn't be a whole, like, switch up, I'd imagine.
So Kenny
Yeah,
Joe
thank you.
put out a video a couple weeks ago, and
Oh,
I'm not sure if you
yeah.
had a chance to watch it or not, but it was
Mhm.
called "Speaking My Truth,"
Yeah.
and I watched the whole thing, and it's gotten the views. Granted, Kenny Joe has 800,000 subscribers, right?
Mhm.
So he's gonna have a certain fan base who's gonna watch whatever video he puts out, but I think that's a start, and I would love to see content creators like Kenny Joe, who was just real with his fan base and with his audience
Right.
and says, "Hey, this is stuff that I struggle with. Like, I struggle with my weight." Like, he
Mhm.
he he said that. Like, I weighed,
Yeah.
you know, I was a buff 135 when I was in the army. I could bust out 100 push-ups. I've gotten older and I've gotten weaker, and, like, I'm not okay with that. Like, the process of aging is that's a concept that I'm struggling with right now. And,
Mhm.
I struggle with comments that are coming in under my YouTube videos and the feedback that I'm getting sometimes, and how detrimental it can be to my mental health to read something that somebody somewhere who doesn't even know who I am decided to write, and how that affects me from a mental health perspective. Like, he's done that and he's doing
Yeah.
that. So I think seeing more of that from creators and just being more open, I think that that would be hugely beneficial, again, if you can do it in the right way, and if there's anybody that
Right.
can do it the right way, who's intelligent enough to do it the right way,
Uh,
it's definitely BD Legend,
Yeah.
for sure.
yeah, it's gonna take some trial and error, but I'm interested. And it's also got me very excited, in terms of like making videos and stuff. I like making videos of things I'm excited about, versus like, all right, hey, new equipment, let's pump it out. How many, what level, right? So,
Yeah.
which is fine, which is cool. Like, don't get me wrong. It's just
That's cool.
that extra step you need to take for like, okay, how can I make this valuable to the audience that just wants to know, like, "Bruh, what level do I get this to?"
Yeah.
Um, and also at the same time, give the core audience something and maybe give them a takeaway where they can be like, "All right," Um,
Yeah.
that's hard. It's hard to do, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm interested. Definitely, like when you see that next video, just let me know what you think. Either like, this is garbage, or like, nah, just let me know what you think.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but yeah.
Hmm.
So, hero event, we're wrapping up, we're probably getting a little bit short on time here, so, um, wrapping up, uh, I am at the very end of my heroes, and this is the one question I wanted to ask. Uh, I have I've got about 15 levels on my heroes left, right? Which one let's just say there's 10 left on each hero. Which hero would you do first?
Queen,
And
Warden,
then
RC.
then king last, huh?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'd have to agree
Okay.
with that.
I've
Yeah,
been struggling with that question
and
for
Scotty, I'm actually here soon. I'm gonna be doing a video on when to stop upgrading your heroes. Now, BD and I have had some great discussion on this. I love it. I love it. If anybody's interested in that discussion, go back to Clash Tips, listen to whatever episode where we talked about it. But I'm at the point where in my strategic rushing journey that it makes sense to stop, not at max, not at 95, 95, 45, whatever, 70, 45, but to stop early and then to coast the rest of the way on Books of Heroes. And I'm going to present the numbers on, okay, if you're at this level and if you estimate that you have 1 year left of upgrading to do, what level does it make sense to stop at? If you've maxed all the way up to Town Hall 16, then it makes sense to stop at this level. If you strategic rushed all the way to Town Hall 16 and you likely have more time left than somebody who's maxed and has more time in the beginning up to that point, this is what level you should stop at. And I'm going to kind of
Mhm.
present the numbers on where it makes sense to stop and coast and just use Books of Heroes for the rest of the time. So I'll let you know when that comes out, and hopefully it's helpful. Maybe it won't be. Maybe it just be a complete waste of time, but hopefully it helps with that because you've done an amazing job on your heroes. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, that's a lot.
So as we wrap up, uh, what are you listening to this summer?
Listening to in terms of songs?
Yeah, music. What's the
Um,
songs of the summer? What's a song
not
of the
as
summer for you?
not as much, to be honest. I listen to a lot of pods, but I will say, uh, yeah, that Sabrina Carpenter song is catchy. Espresso.
Oh yeah, okay.
That
Yeah.
that song is very catchy.
Mm.
What are you reading?
Reading. I'm reading a book right now. Okay, so these books are like really long. It takes me like half a year to finish, and I always take a melatonin and I start reading, and I get like a page
Yeah.
done.
That's
But
right. Slowly but
um,
surely.
I'm reading a fantasy book right now. By Brandon Sanderson. It's called The Hero of Ages. It's the third book in the Mistborn trilogy. So,
Oh,
um,
Yes.
that's what Tiff's reading.
So I
yeah.
finished the Way of Kings series,
Oh
finished
no
the last
way.
book. So the fifth, but it's only the first four books. So the fifth book
Mhm.
comes out in December. So I'm going to be right there, ready to buy it,
Yeah.
download it to my Kindle, and read it as soon as I can because I'm super
Let's
excited to see
go.
what happens.
Mhm.
And what are you watching?
Ooh, watching. I'm watching. Right now I'm watching Shogun.
Oh yeah,
And
okay,
Hmm.
after I finish
fantastic.
Shogun, I'll watch the House of the Dragon. So
Oh, very good.
yeah,
It's
Nice.
that last episode tonight,
I
I
love
think.
it. Those are great
yeah,
questions. Great questions.
yeah.
How are you, Tip? Reading, watching, listening.
So I just finished Ted Chiang. I'm trying to think of the name. You would catch me off guard. Um, it's a series of short stories, and he just has a really unique perspective. I think I heard about it on the Tim Ferriss podcast, if I remember right. Um, but Ted Chiang, I can't remember the name. Oh, it's called Exhalation Stories, and it was good. It was like 300 pages, 350 pages. Each story, some of the stories were like 3 pages long. Some of the stories were like 50 pages long. But for
Mm.
example, just to kind of give you a taste of what stories he writes, in one of the stories, there's a shop owner in Egypt who has developed the ability for a person to walk through almost what looks like a mirror and to come out at a specific point in time 20 years earlier. And what would you do if you could go back and essentially advise your former self or to change something about your past? And then you walk back through the mirror to go 20 years back to your current self.
Uh,
And then you can
Oh,
see how those changes that you made 20 years in the past affected your life. So he gets into it pretty deep. He deals with like religion and from a like a sci-fi perspective, which was really interesting to me. He deals with like astronomy, things of science. Like he takes these really deep concepts and then puts like a sci-fi time travel, sometimes dystopia lens over it. And so I
mhm.
love that. Um, so that's what I'm reading. Watching, my wife and I are watching V100 right now.
Oh,
oh
oh
yeah.
yeah, I watched
Good
that show.
show.
Really good. I love it. We're in the second season, so don't tell me how it ends.
Okay.
And listening, like I jump back and forth between genres. So, and literally, I range from hard rock all the way to classical. So it depends on what my mood is. If I'm in, and a lot of it, I mean, we talked about mental health. Like a lot of it has to do
Mozart.
with like what I'm experiencing in the moment. Like if I have anxiety and my anxiety is off the charts, then I'll put on classical guitar and it helps calm me down. If I'm like super confident or my brain is really working fast, then I'll put on hard rock like Five Finger Death Punch or Theory of a Dead Man or 3 Days Grace, like something like that. Or every now and again, I'm like in a really fun mood, and so I'll put on some Morgan Wallen, and listen to country. So it just like it depends. It depends on what mood I'm in, and kind of where I'm going. What about you?
Me. Um, I'm watching Dance Moms.
Still. Guilty pleasure.
Seriously, I've watched over 200 episodes this summer.
Do you feel smarter?
Yes, actually, I do. I'm studying Dance Moms. We just put it on at night, and it's like in the background. I don't know what happened, but it's and other things. That's kind of like the, um, I would say, so House of the Dragon for sure right
Mhm.
now. I'm looking forward to Deadpool. I am reading Adrian Tchaikovsky. He's this sci-fi
The Children of
author.
Time.
Yeah, which is just my favorite books, one of them. But he is just this amazing. I'm reading right now. It's well, what the heck is the book's name? I just read Cage of Souls by him. Super good. And new Eminem album just dropped and stuff, so I've been listening to that a bunch.
So if you
So
like Children of Time, that I love the book. I've not read the second one. I only read the first
I've
one.
read them all.
But
Yeah,
Project Hail Mary by
I've read that
Andy
one.
Weir,
Yep,
holy cow, I love that.
that was a
And
good
that's
one
he, of
too.
course, wrote the book, the Mars book.
The
Matt
Martian.
Damon, The Martian, right? Matt Damon
Yep.
played in the movie. He wrote that book as well, but Project Hail Mary, like I cried at the end of the
Yeah.
book because that was just the perfect picture of self-sacrifice for somebody else, and it was depicted in such
Well,
a
don't
genius
spoil it.
sci-fi way. Like, oh my gosh, it was amazing. I got to go back and reread it. It's such a
Yeah,
good book.
great book.
Such a good book.
Well, shout outs.
Shout out to my mom because ever since I basically stopped my exams, she would make me breakfast in the morning, and that helped me like get to
Oh,
like
That's
YouTube work
amazing.
faster, you know. So
that's awesome.
uh, yeah,
Having a great mom. That's awesome. That is awesome. Yeah,
I'm gonna shout out.
I would like to shout out BDLegend because he's my sounding board, 100%. Like,
That's awesome.
every month or so, typically once a month, I would say, like I'll have a question about YouTube or Clash of Clans, or he'll check in with me, like, hey, how are things going? I've been watching your YouTube channel. You're doing great. This was a great concept. So just having that, especially as a smaller content creator, getting that feedback from a bigger content creator, like
right.
I love it. And just like I said, like I've learned so much from your videos, your titles, your thumbnails. Like, thank you so much, and I a shout out to you.
Of course. Thank you.
I'm gonna shout out BD. Thanks for being here. It's good getting to know you better. And thank you for your videos. And House of L. We'll catch up on the shout outs next week. BD, you want to tell us where to find you and where people should get a hold of you if they want to, or your contact?
Yeah, yeah. So mostly on Discord. If like you need anything, you can find me. It's BDLegend Clash of Clans. I think it's dash, but I'm not 100% sure. But if you can't like type it in directly, you can always go to YouTube. Just look up the channel, and then there will be a link to the Discord there as well. So yeah, I'm mostly on Discord. Just send me a friend request. I usually get around to Discord a few times a day. So if you need anything there, you can hit me up there.
Cool, man. Well, get a hold of us, Clash of Clans podcast at gmail.com. Clash of Clans at the Clash of Clans podcast.com. You can also get a hold of us. I got to find the phone number here. Maybe I'll just edit back. It is 320-216-2073. You can call or leave a text
Yep,
at
and
that
we
number.
will play that on the
Yeah.
podcast so that we can respond to it if you decide to leave a voice message.
Yeah.
I'm dead.
320-216-2073. So anything else, Tip?
I think we're good.
All right,
It's been
then.
amazing.
Thank you, BD. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Keep it clashy, everybody.
Keep it clashy.
Skilly beep 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 skilly beep.